I was talking with someone from another church community recently about how thankful he was for the online worship service folks were doing. He said it made it possible for a friend of his to attend who had not been able to attend for several years due to a severe mold allergy combined with the relatively mild levels of mold in their old church building. On Zoom, his friend has not missed a Sunday and loves being back in the community. I was talking with someone else this week about how they find the online worship to be stilted and flat. She appreciates the effort, she assured me, and will keep showing up, but she longs for face-to-face contact again. The intellectual stimulation is nice, but the community is missing. Another friend was lamenting the difficulty of hosting their pagan rituals online. They laughed about their shift from an earth-centered practice to a technology-centered practice. They smiled wistfully when they explained to me that even online, in our separate houses, we are still in the same universe. The energy each person puts out will always find its way, even if we are not in the same room, breathing the same air. My sermon today is a companion to one I had delivered back in the spring based on Arundhati Roy's piece, The Pandemic is a Portal. In that piece, Roy wrote, historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. Now, this pandemic has had an impact on our worshiping community. Here we are online. This pandemic has pushed us to break with the past and imagine our world anew. We pivoted our worship services online instead of in person for the health and the continuing health of others in our community. This spring, the board, in consultation with the UUA and current scientific recommendations, voted to plan to remain worshiping online through this coming church year, through until May 2021. Now, let me unpack that just a little bit. The board's intention was not to lock us into online worship and online everything for the next full year, only that we are planning for things to be online. When it's safe to meet in person, we will do so. If it's safe to meet for worship in person before May of 2021, then we will shift our plans. But for now, our planning revolves around us staying online for worship for the coming year. At our recent board retreat just a week ago, we began plans for a reopening team, a group of thoughtful people to advise the board about when and how we can host in-person activities throughout the coming year. Worship is a very risky activity for a variety of reasons, but a small group of people meeting outside, masked and socially distanced, that's a manageable risk for many people in their minds. We're looking into what we can host and how we can offer some in-person activities as we go forward. What we do at this point will necessarily be different from what we have been doing in person all along. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth onto an old garment. Otherwise, the new piece will pull away from the old, making the tear worse. For a while back in the spring, I tried hard to keep everything going, to keep doing all of the things that we had been doing, but to just do them online. And I discovered that did not work. We need to find new ways to do these things. We need patchwork garments that will not rend and tear from our simple use. All of which brings me around to that article we used for our reading this morning. The author's suggestion that churches need to shift their mindset away from being a physical community with an online presence to becoming a digital community with a physical presence. And we need to get a new garment, essentially, to carry that metaphor along instead of patching the old one in this new setting. And I don't agree. I think Carey Nieuwhof is a very wise preacher and church trend observer. I think Nieuwhof is smart and perceptive, but I also think he is wrong on this point. I resonate with Nieuwhof when he writes about how a crisis such as this pandemic is not just a disruptor, but an accelerator. The 7 trends that he lists are not wildly new ideas. They are just wildly accelerated ideas. He talks about things being how we're valuing things like flexibility and agility in our church staff teams during this disruption. And that makes a lot of sense to me. He talked about how this pandemic is compounding the long trend that we have been in for a while away from denominational allegiance or brand loyalty, if you will. I think his comments about the trend toward home-based spirituality instead of church building-based spirituality, I think these comments are spot on. We've been working on that for a while in our community. I will admit the only part of his predictions I did not agree with is the part that I had our worship associate read to you, the part about needing to become a digital organization with a physical presence. I mean, obviously, here we are. We are functioning as a digital organization. While our physical presence is under renovation, when our physical presence is not something we can do by this choice that we make for our health. Obviously, we're putting a lot of energy into our website and our capacity for Zoom meetings and our digital communication. And obviously, we are not going to stop doing those things when we can get back together in person. We know now how to offer live online version of our worship. We're not going to forget how to do it when we get back into our building. And Nieuwhof is right when he says that the digital connection is better for some people, giving greater access to those who are hindered by distance or timing or illness. He's right on that count. But here's where I think he's off base. He draws the comparison of retail stores in a mall and retail stores online. He warns that brick and mortar businesses are learning that you can't compete unless you invest deeply in the online digital sales as well. And the stores that really thrive are the ones that live online primarily. By that comparison, Nieuwhof is saying religious communities need to do the same. But that is precisely where he loses me. What are we selling? What is this congregation's product? He is comparing religious communities to businesses that sell books and t-shirts. He's buying into that idea that religion is basically a transactional experience, an exchange. I'll give you this much in exchange for that product I value. I'm buying into it. I'm a consumer by this mentality. Religious communities, many argue, and I agree, are not transactional experiences, but transformational ones. There is no commodification of your encounter here. Sure, we ask for money, we ask for a financial pledge, but that's probably why it seems a little transactional, but there is a scale, there's no scale of fees for what we're doing here. What would we be selling? I know that some Christian churches will say that their product is dogma, their business is beliefs. To put it crassly, they are in the afterlife insurance business. I would agree that is not true for even most Christian churches, and it's definitely not true for our Unitarian Universalist communities. To lean into that language, though, we can say that our business is relationships. Our product is community. And Newhoff is suggesting religious communities shift their efforts to become a digital organization to better sell our product. Yes, there is a version of that available online and in virtual space. Yes, the energy we put out into the universe will always find its way, even if we are not in the same room, breathing the same air. But the heartbeat of it is in person, face-to-face encounters. Our faith community is focused not on beliefs or dogma or a special way to get into heaven. Instead, we are focused on being companions with each other on our spiritual journeys. Our mission is centered on actions and experiences we have in community together. Can we do that online? Yes, mostly, kind of, but not completely. I'm certain this pandemic will leave a lasting mark on our community going forward. We will continue to have online classes that we offer. We will make sure people can donate money electronically. We will be sure to have videos of our worship services and other things like that available on our website. And there will be an easy way to allow people to Zoom in to activities like committee meetings or even classes that we have going forward. And we will always return to in-person gatherings when possible, where we can touch hands, where we can better read each other's body language, where we can sit in shared silence together, listening to our communal breathing, where we can have eye contact that is not stymied by screens, because our business is relationships. Our product is community. I mean, in short, we'll do both, but I'm convinced that we will always have a need to gather together in person. Human touch is too basic a human need to forego. And at the same time, we will never stop doing all we can to stay connected with people who can't show up physically. It's part of our commitment to be a community together. What works for one will not be the answer for everyone else. For now, by necessity and compassion, we are online. We keep our connections, but we're not simply holding our collective breath until we can breathe together again. We are forging connections and building community with every tool we can. That's what we do. That's why we are here. And here we will always be. In a world without end, may it be so.